Van's question is, there is a SI swing high-low indicator. Is it possible that I could set the location of the SI swing high-lows on the high and low of an SMA 50 and SMA 20 cross bar? Let's see. I think Van's also clarifying here how to set the entry or exit within 5 ticks above or below the SMA 15 and SMA 50 cross bar. Okay, the SMA 200, not the SMA 20. All right. Well, Van, let me mark up my chart here and make sure I understand your question. So I will add a couple of moving averages on here. So we'll add the 50 there, and I'll add a 200, and I'll change the color, of course. Alright, so there's the bar. Now I guess I would assume that's the bar of the crossing. So I'm going to read this question again here, just a moment. Let's see, so Van, are you wanting to detect the high of the bar here? Yeah, is that what you're trying to do, is detect the high of the bar and also the low of the bar? Like, is that what you're trying to reference there, Van? Okay. So, the SI swing high-low, is not designed to look for crossover conditions. So you would need, that would require, a special custom written indicator to do that. The swing high-low is designed to look at the highs and the lows, made of price, or you could put it on an indicator, so you could find the swing highs and lows of this MACD line if you wanted to. But think of it as kind of like NinjaTrader swing indicator, but just a little more sophisticated. But it's not designed to be looking for crossovers. So you would, you'd have to have, a custom written indicator that really it's looking for crossovers and then looking at the bar price. Basically, it's looking at the bar prices. Sorry, the swing indicator is not designed for that use there. All right, so let's see. All right, so David looks like he's expanding upon Van's question here. So David's asking, couldn't you just check for a high on this bar and a lower high on the previous bar? Let's see. Yes, David, in general terms you can. So let's see. David's wanting to, check the high of the current bar and see if there's a lower high on the previous bar. All right. So yes, we can do that. Okay, so this is getting into a different question here. Alright, so what I'm going to do is add chameleon on here, because chameleon is what we're going to use to get the high, to check the high prices and the low prices here to do this. So let me just throw chameleon on my chart real quick. And alright, so clearly we can see, right, the green dashes represent the high of the bar, and so we want to know if we're making a higher high on the next bar, right? So wanting to see if we're making a higher high on the next bar. Alright, so let me get BloodHound open here. So for anyone new to the room, let me back up. So I already have BloodHound on my chart, and that's what the green bars are down here. Right, so this, to get BloodHound on your chart, let's go into the indicators. Right, and BloodHound is listed down in the S's, so it's under SI. So there it is. It's SI BloodHound. So, and you can see right below it is chameleon. So SI chameleon. So as we can see, I already have BloodHound on the chart. And as soon as you add BloodHound to your chart, right, it adds this button up on top here. And right now there's no file loaded into BloodHound, so it's just an empty template. Right? So I'm going to click on the button, and then that's going to open up our BloodHound interface. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give our BloodHound system a name. I'm going to name the file. So let me just scroll down here, and I'm going to use a previous name. Alright, so now I have a name for my BloodHound file, and we can also see the button up here. The name in the button changes as well to match the file that we have loaded into BloodHound. So, alright, so to detect if we have a higher high from one bar to the next, we're going to be doing a comparison. So we're going to be comparing, the current high to the previous high. So let's just kind of back this up here. So we'll say that this is the current bar being built, so we're going to compare the current bar to one bar back to see if we have a higher high. So to do that, we're going to use the comparison solver. There we go. So I'm going to add that onto the system. And alright, let's see. So I'll name this something like, how about a higher high, and also I'm going to look for a lower low as well. So this solver is going to accomplish two tasks. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to set indicator A. So indicator A is going to look at our current bar. Right, so it's going to be looking at this bar right here. So I'm going to change my indicator over to chameleon. And I'm just going to make an assumption here, and I'm going to say that if we make a higher high, we're going to want a long signal. And if price is making a lower low, we're going to want a short signal. Right, so we're going to be using the high prices to generate, right, a long output, And we're going to be using the low prices to generate a short output. Just like so. Alright, now indicator B here, that's going to be looking at one bar back. So that will be looking one bar back, previously one bar. So to do that, we're going to use this displacement feature. Right? So this displacement is basically the same thing as NinjaTrader's displacement. It does the same thing. So I'll just set that to 1, and essentially that looks back one bar. And once again, we'll change our indicator over to Chameleon. Once again, I'm going to set the plots up like this, right? So we're going to use the high price to generate a long signal and use the low price to generate a short signal. So like so. And there we go. So we can see as the high price moves higher, we're getting a long signal out of that solver. As long as the high price keeps moving up, we're getting a long out of it. So, with the range bar, we get a nice clean output like this. If I switch this over to, say, a minute bar, we're going to get some mixed results. So let me show you here. Oh, these bars are really short for the ES. I have a feeling this continuous contract hasn't switched over yet. So I'll just switch over to oil. Alright, there we go. And let me kind of find this little spot where I'm looking for, essentially I'm looking for like an inside bar. Yeah, here we go. So you see how this bar essentially engulfs the previous bar, and we can see that we get a long and a short output because both conditions were met. Right, so high made a higher high, but also at the same time, right, low, the low price made a lower low. So just something to be aware of. Effectively the solver is doing what it's supposed to be doing. So, alright, so that's how you would do that. And let's see, I see some other comments coming in here, so let me just see what else David's writing in here. Let's see, so David, you're saying below the line, then above the line. Isn't that effectively a crossover? Let's see, so David, were you referring, I guess you were referring to the lines I drew on the chart? Sorry David, I'm not picking up on what you're referring to when you're saying below the line then above the line. I guess you were kind of talking about the lines that I drew on the chart. However, keep in mind when you draw lines on the chart, there's no way for, if I draw a line on the chart there's no way currently for an indicator to pick up this line and know what those line values are. So really your indicators can't interact with this line. So that means BloodHound can't interact with it either. Oh, I see what David's getting at. Okay, yeah. Good point, David. All right. So let me kind of set my chart up here, and we'll take a look at what David's looking at. All right. I'm going to set my chart up to a 5 range here. Range charts are just a little easier to work with. And let me put my moving averages back on here. All right, I think we found a spot here to work in. Okay, so we'll work in this spot right here. Okay, so we're going back to Van's question, where Van was wanting to know, Van's trying to determine if the bar that, oops, let me get a different line here. So we see this bar right here, and let me thicken that up a little bit. So we have this bar where a crossover occurred. And I believe, what Van's trying to do is determine if the high or the low of the bar where a crossover occurs, if the next bar breaks the high or the low. And so there's the bar. There's the bar which the crossover occurred. So we're trying to figure out if price has broke this high or the low of that bar, like such. So, all right. So before I get started, let me just take a look at some comments coming in here. Yeah, so David kind of brought up a good point. So the solver that I made is already kind of detecting, when a higher high is made or a lower low. So that actually might work for Van's question here. So we'll test it out here. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to make a crossover condition, and then link the crossover condition to this solver that I already have made here. That's looking at the higher highs and lower lows of price. Right. So I'm going to switch over to the logic tab here and make a new logic. So let's see. This is a crossover break of high or the low. All right. So we're going to drop a crossover solver down here, and so we're going to look for this crossover condition, right, of the 50 SMA and the 200 SMA. So with the crossover solver, right, we're going to set indicator A to our our faster moving average. So I'm going to set this to the 50, and then set the indicator B input to the SMA 200. right? So we can see that crossover is marked there nice and clearly. And so there's a couple of things to think about here, Van. I guess I'll kind of run through a couple of situations, but we can see that the crossover condition is only giving us a short output here. So we have two things to consider. Do we look for a break? Do we look for price, breaking the high or low of the bar, in either direction, or do we only look for price to break the high or the low in the direction of the crossover? Right, so right now, BloodHound's giving this a short output. So right now, BloodHound could only be looking for price to be breaking the low of the bar, right, which would be in the same direction as the crossover. So let me add that solver on here, and let's plug this in. And so we can see that this break doesn't occur until this bar right here. So let me mark it, right? So there's our short output from when price basically makes a lower low. Well, yeah, see, price is making a lower low. It's not really detecting whether price broke this price level here. So it's not, so I guess this system is not probably working exactly to how you're wanting it, right? Because this short output is based on, right, basically, remember, we're looking at the previous bar's low, and we saw that we made a lower low. So it's not because price broke this level right here. So this, I don't think this really is kind of matching what you're looking for exactly. But let me kind of show you one thing that we can do. So I'm going to, once again, I'm looking at the crossover here. So let me give this a name before I go any further. All right. So we're looking at the SMA 50 to 200 crossover. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the output of that crossover here. So I'm going to use a long short modifier here, and we're going to change, let's see, change the mode to addition. There we go. Change it to addition. Now look at BloodHound. See how now BloodHound has a long and a short output? So what we're looking at is we're just now detected that, hey, a crossover occurred and there's no direction bias to this condition. So instead of this being a crossover kind of trade condition, now it's just a generic condition that, hey, a crossover occurred. And so we could look for both a long condition or a short condition based off of having a long and a short output at the same time. So now if I take an AND node, so I'm going to take an AND node, so we're taking this crossover state that happened and connect it up with the higher high and higher low condition. Now let's see, and I need to do one more thing. So I need to do one more thing. So let's go back to our crossover state. Now we need to shift this state forward one bar, right? Because we need one more bar, right? This is the bar that the bar after the crossover bar, right, is what we're looking for to see what direction price breaks to. Let me kind of shift this over here. So, okay, so let's just kind of play this along as if it was happening in real time. So, step along, boom, we have our crossover condition. Now we don't know yet whether price is going to move up or price is going to move down. So we have to wait one more bar to see what price is going to do. So we also need to take this crossover output and shift it forward onto the next bar as well. So I'm going to move these up a little bit. And let's see, I'm going to use the look back here. I'm going to use the look back to shift that signal forward. So let me mark it here, right? Oops. Let's get that square on there. There we go. So that square is right marking where the signal is now. And if I take a look at this look back, you see how the signal got shifted forward one? Or in other words, it got displaced forward one, because the look back has this displacement here. So if I set this displacement to 0, then look, you see how the signal just shifted back onto the original crossover bar? But we're going to shift our signal forward one onto the next bar, right? Remember, the next bar is what we're waiting for to see, you know, if price breaks up or if price breaks down. So we're going to be taking the output from this look back, plug it into the anode, and there we go. We kind of figured out here that we had a crossover condition, and we figured out that price broke up on the next bar. So it's not quite as precise as I think Van wanted, but it is kind of effectively doing something similar. So I'm going to scroll back on the chart and see what else we got here. Wow, we're not getting very many crossovers. Yeah, alright, so there we go. We had another break up based on this crossover. And there we go. There was a break down after the crossover. Well, let's take a look, see how it looks on a minute chart. Alright, so we'll scan through the chart and see how this works on a minute chart. And yeah, so look, it's not quite working on the minute chart. I think there's the bar where after our crossover occurred. Let's just verify that. So what I can do, let's take a look at the crossover solver, and yeah, there we go. So my arrow is on the bar right after the crossover. So look, what's happening is you know, the next bar never broke out, so we never got a signal because the high price didn't move up and the low price did not move down. So, you know, basically we got an inside bar afterwards. So it didn't quite work out. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, and actually, if we extend this forward, yeah, it took quite a few bars before price finally broke the low of that bar. So yeah, so really to kind of effectively do what Van's wanting to do is you have to you'd need a special indicator that's holding on to the that's holding on to these prices of the bar and extending them forward. That's pretty specific kind of function there. So, all right, let's see. David's writing in some more questions here. David's asking, can you create a variable set to the low of the bar where the crossover occurs? So, well, yeah, David, you pretty much with NinjaTrader you can create anything. You can write your own custom, custom code, your own custom indicators or whatever, to kind of do all of this, to do anything you want. So yeah, you could write, an indicator that holds on to the low price of the bar or holds on to the high price of the bar. So yeah, that's definitely doable. Okay, and Van is asking a good question here. So I think Van's referring to the solver tab. Van is asking, what does it mean when you have these check marks in here? These check marks basically enable and disable a solver. However, these check marks have no effect once you start working in a logic template. So as soon as I clicked on and created a new logic template, these check marks have no effect. And so what does have an effect is you have to plug your solvers into this result node. So when there's no logic board created, you can turn solvers on and off on the solver tab. So this is kind of goes back to the first version of BloodHound. This is kind of a leftover remnants from BloodHound version 1 that first came out. But I think most of you guys are working in the logic board, so really if you're doing that, these check marks really do nothing then. So this, I guess another way of saying it is if someone has BloodHound standard version, so the standard version only has a solver tab, right? The standard version does not have a logic tab. So if you have BloodHound standard, then sometimes turning solvers on and off is needed. So that's why these are in here. So okay, good question there, Van. Let's see. All right, so kind of getting back to David's question about creating a variable that will hold on to the bars, high price and low price. So yes, actually we do have a way around that. So let me kind of explain. In Chameleon has this lookback parameter. So let me set this lookback parameter to 2 and show you what happens. Alright, so look at this bar. You see how the high of the bar basically was extended forward another bar. And that's because this bar, the high is lower. So basically, Chameleon held on to the highest high, and if we look down here, Chameleon held on to the lowest low as it's looking back 2 bars. But if we look back one more bar, right, this bar had a lower low, and so it held on to that lower low. And then we go to the next bar and the next bar. So out of these 2 bars, hopefully you guys can see my cursor. So out of these 2 bars, we can see Chameleon is tracking the lowest low out of those 2 bars. So let's look at the current bar all the way on the right of the chart here. So we can see that this is a little short inside bar, but we can see that Chameleon is holding on to the highest high and the lowest low of the previous 2 bars. Okay. So now let me set this to 10. So now we can see that look out of the bar just before the white arrow, right? It made the highest high, and Chameleon held on to that high for 10 bars, and then it dropped down to the next highest high, looking back 10 bars. But unfortunately, you can see as we're looking at the lows, you know, it's not locking into the low of the bar of the crossover. So it's not quite exactly doing what we want, unfortunately. So yeah, so this might be helpful for you guys. Just keep this in mind. But yeah, it's not quite fitting our exact conditions here. So unfortunately. All right, so give me a moment to read some comments here. So yeah, so David's kind of, I guess, asking about, writing some indicators that he can use with BloodHound. So yes, David, you know, when you write your indicator, when your indicators basically, you know, plot a line, then BloodHound can use any of those plots. And that's what Chameleon's doing, right? With Chameleon, we can see we have all of these different plots, right? And it's just a pretty simple indicator. It's just plotting these various price points, right? So these dashes here are just plot lines from this Chameleon indicator, and BloodHound's able to use it. So yes, so Dave, if you're writing your own custom indicators, you know, just put the value that you want BloodHound to analyze, just put that into a plot. Or if you're a little more advanced programmer, you can put that value in a data series as well, and BloodHound can read that data series. But you know, I think it's always better, you know, if you're writing your own indicators, it's always better to plot the line or the values on the chart, so that way you can visually see what BloodHound is working with, right? So it makes, you know, for us as people, the only way for us to really fully comprehend what BloodHound is doing is to see, you know, the data visually on the chart, right? That's the only way that we can really understand and comprehend what values, what plot lines BloodHound is working with and analyzing. Let's see, Tony's asking, have the latest version allow you to import templates or share logic between different template files? Let's see, well, I guess first of all, Tony, there is no newer version yet. So BloodHound hasn't been updated since March. But I guess I can let you know that Jeremy is working on what effectively will probably be BloodHound version 2, and that will have the, well, actually I think it will have the ability to, I'm not sure if it's going to be in the first version of BloodHound 2, but it should be coming pretty soon afterwards, where so what Tony's getting at is, hold on. Let me pull up BloodHound here just a moment. So what customers have been asking for is a way that you can take, logic, like this from one logic template and basically have some kind of a, let me just throw something on here just for representation, right? And so what people are wanting, what our customers are wanting is, say like you have logic from one template, and what you want to take that logic, plug it into a node, and then that node can then be represented in another logic template. And so basically, like this node could represent the could represent the logic from a different logic template, right? So it could represent the data that's going into this node. So you can transfer logic from one template into another template. So yeah, so I think with the version of BloodHound that Jeremy's writing right now, that'll be attainable now. So that will be coming. So I don't want to get into too much detail, just because I'm not sure, how much of all these little extras, Jeremy's going to be putting into the first version, but it is coming. All right, so David had asked a previous question here. Has anyone tried writing an indicator based on a line that could generate an output value that could be used by BloodHound? Yeah, so I guess I'll cover this kind of question again, David. If you're writing your own custom indicators and you're using NinjaTrader's plot method, then BloodHound will have no problem working with your custom indicators, right? So the reason why BloodHound works with all of NinjaTrader's indicators, because all of their indicators use the standard plot method, to plot their values. So as long as you follow NinjaTrader standards, then BloodHound will have no problem reading your own custom indicator. So just like the MACD here, these are all plotted lines using NinjaTrader's standard plot method there. So yes, so David is saying just expose that data series so that BloodHound can access it. Correct. So David, I guess here would be some suggestions. So if you have an indicator that, say you have an indicator that, some special thing that like detects when the MACD crosses over the zero line, like right there. Right? So if you have an indicator that just identifies this one single point amongst all of these bars that go by, that would be a good condition that would go into a data series versus a plot. Right? if you're writing an indicator that's going to, track this low price of this bar, it's going to hold on to that low price of that bar there, then that would be a good situation to actually plot that line on the chart. So that way you have a visual reference, of this low price of the bar. But going back to the MACD crossover, it's pretty obvious that the MACD crossed over there, so you probably don't really need a visual marker on the chart, and so therefore you could just put this information into a data series. So, let me see. Let me see if I can give you some other examples here. Here we go. This TC trending TSF. The TSF is a time series forecast indicator. So basically someone took NinjaTrader's TSF indicator and they kind of jazzed it up here. So I'm going to add this onto my chart. And let's see. Oh, I'm going to turn off the candle painting here. Let's see. Alright, there we go. Change the colors a little bit so it's easier to see. And hopefully, amongst all this mess, let me see if I can find a good spot on the chart. Yeah, here we go. So, you can see this orange, red, and then lighter blue line right here. Right, so someone, kind of custom made a, nice visual customization of the TSF indicator. But they also added some extra features in here. So let me open up BloodHound. And I'm going to use the threshold solver for this. And I'm going to set my indicator to that TC trending indicator. Alright, there it is. And so take a look. So they added what's called the bool series to this indicator. A bool series is a true or false state, where versus a data series. So a data series, you can put any kind of value into a data series. But a bool series is either true or false. That's the only two values that it can hold. So if I select this signal direction bool series here, and so a true or false in computer language is either a 1 for true or a 0 for false. Now, so what we're doing is that right, when this signal direction is true, when it's true, it equals 1. And so when that signal direction is true or equaling 1, I set the long output to turn on, right? So when that signal direction is true, in other words, it equals 1 or greater. It's at 1 or greater. So now we can see on the chart, as soon as the indicator turns blue, we're getting a long output, right, which is identifying kind of the uptrend. So that's kind of like a little extra feature that someone had written into that indicator there. And then to get the short output, I can set this bottom one to 1. And actually, I probably need to set that one. There we go. Yep. So I need to set the next one down here. So now we were able to use the threshold solver to read that bool series, which is identifying whether the indicator is painted red or painted blue. That's kind of an example of how you can use a data series or a bool series there, David. All right. And I'm going to get rid of that solver because I don't think anybody else has the TC trending indicator. I don't know where to get that. It used to be up on Big Mike's, but I don't think it's up there anymore. Alright, so David is asking, how hard is it to update BloodHound on my trading machine? Do I have to remove and reinstall, or just install over the existing installation? Yes, David, you can just install BloodHound over the existing installation. So yeah, what you can do to update BloodHound, open up the interface and go to the help, and you can check for updates, and it'll tell you if there is an update, and if there is, you can click yes to install it. Just keep in mind though, if you click yes to update, what you want to do after that point is you have to start shutting down NinjaTrader. So the installer will get to a certain point and it will stop. And what you need to do is you need to shut down NinjaTrader before the installation process can continue. So just keep that in mind. And for some more information on doing updates and licensing and installations, and if you have any kind of licensing trouble, we have a full documentation page on licensing and installation and updates. So right here under BloodHound reference, right, so hopefully you guys saw that I went to help and then to documentation. Right, so opened up our documentation page, and then under BloodHound reference right here it says installation, updates, and licensing. So I'll click on that, and there's all kinds of reference information here. So here's kind of a right, the instructions for installing, the instructions for licensing, instructions for updating your BloodHound. Here's instructions for transferring your license to another computer. So say say you're upgrading your computer to a new machine, and so you're going to be not using your old machine. So this will show you how to deactivate BloodHound on your current machine, so that way you can then use that license on your new machine. So if your computer crashes, if you guys ever have a computer crash and you have to either reinstall Windows all again or reinstall NinjaTrader all over again, effectively you would have lost your BloodHound activation. So here's instructions on how to recover it basically it instructs you on the information that we need so that we can recover your license. And right, instructions for removing BloodHound. And if you're trying to license BloodHound, here's the most common errors that people get, and these are very easy errors to correct. So, all right. So there you go, David. All right. So Van is asking, is there any way to detect range or trend market, or let's see, range or trend market based on BloodHound software? Yes, definitely, Van. You'll need the indicator that actually detects the range, or let's see, trend market. I'm not sure what you mean by trend market, Van. So let's see, using BloodHound. Yes, so well, keep in mind, BloodHound uses the indicators that you have to do its tasks, right? BloodHound is not an indicator that does everything. The reason why there's so many indicators out there is because for every specific condition that you're looking for price to do requires a special indicator that's coded, right, to look for that condition. So what BloodHound does is BloodHound takes your indicators and it allows you to do various analysis of your indicators. So the indicators do the mathematical formulas, do the mathematical calculations, or track the ranges and stuff like that, right? So it requires custom programming, to do specific jobs, such as detecting the range of something, or detecting a specific market trend, right? So like, for example, this indicator here, this TSF, right? It's basically a special kind of a moving average. It's a special formula moving average versus just this SMA, right, which is just a simple moving average, right? So, and the formulas for doing this are drastically different, right? And so BloodHound doesn't have every single formula built into it. What BloodHound has is it has all of these ways of doing, effectively looking for different conditions, right? So right, the most common one is like this comparison solver. So you can compare, is your indicator above or below price, is your indicator above the previous high, or is it below the previous low? You can compare various things like like on this MACD, you can do various comparisons, like is the histogram below the MACD, or did the MACD cross below the histogram, right? So that's what BloodHound is doing, is right, it's looking for these various conditions to occur. Did a crossover occur? Did a inflection occur? What's the slope of your indicator? What direction is your indicator pointing? You can look for various threshold levels. Did the MACD, is the MACD above or below a certain threshold? There's a couple of custom solvers in here that look at the regression channel, various states of the regression channel. Right, here's a solver to work with support and resistance indicators. So if you have an indicator such as the pivots, like the floor pivots indicator that has 6 or 8 different pivot levels, right, the support resistance solver allows you to check where is price in relationship to a support and resistance level. And now, of course, your indicators an indicator has to calculate that support resistance level, because there's hundreds of ways to calculate a support and resistance level. Pivots. I think there's like at least 5 different pivot calculations, right? So you have to have, the exact indicator that's applying the exact pivot formula that you want to use in your trading system. Right. So once again, BloodHound is not, can't incorporate all of those indicator formulas. It's just too much for one indicator to do. So therefore, you have to have the indicator looking for the specific, you have to have the indicator, right, that's calculating the specific moving average that you want to use, or calculating the specific pivot formula that you want to use, and then BloodHound allows you to do various analysis on those indicators. So Van, I hope that kind of clears up what BloodHound actually does, and then the bigger picture here is that once you get a system created, once you get your trading system created in BloodHound, then the real power behind BloodHound is to backtest it, right? So then the second phase is to call up a strategy, right? To call up Raven, and then to use Raven to kind of backtest your idea to see if the idea is worthy of being traded. So let's see, David, you got a comment here. It says like an indicator of an indicator, and I'm not sure what you're referring to. I might have deleted your previous comment that this like an indicator of an indicator was piggybacking on top of, let's see, the embedded logic node. Okay. Well, I guess, what I can say to you guys, what you can do is, let me kind of show you a little bit about nesting. So let's see, we have this TSF, no, that's a bad example. Here we go. I'll use the MACD here. So I'm going to take a moving average of the MACD. So let's say, oh yeah, here we go. Here's something weird. So how about if I take the stochastics of the MACD? So, in NinjaTrader, right, you put your stochastics there, and then I can change my input series to the MACD. First, let me just check the period on my MACD, 12:26:9. Okay. And all right, so I'm going to grab the MACD and let me change my periods. There we go, 12, 26, and 9. And all right, so I'm going to take the MACD value, MACD plot, and nest it into the stochastics. And let's see, let's put I'll put it on the same panel as the MACD. And I need to change the scaling here. Let's overlay it. There we go. Okay. Great. So we kind of, all right, so I generated the stochastics of the MACD. And the way you can do that in BloodHound is, let's see, I'm going to create a new logic board. So, alright, so we're going to take the stochastics of the MACD, and I guess I'm just going to check to see whether the stochastic is above or below 50. Just something real simple. You know, because the real goal here is just to show you, you know, how can you do this in BloodHound? How do you set BloodHound up to take the stochastics of the MACD? So, all right, so I'm going to switch my SMA over to the stochastics. So there's our stochastics, and next step is to go find the MACD, and I'm going to hit the nested input button, right, and make sure that the periods are set correctly, and I'm using the MACD value, the MACD line, and nesting that into the stochastic. And let's see, I'm going to be looking at the D, the percent D of the stochastic, right, which is the dashed green line on the chart. And so we're going to look to see whether we're above 50 or below 50. And there we go. So as we take a look at this, kind of looks like the stochastics 50 line is right about there. So that's how you can nest indicators into indicators in BloodHound. Alright, yeah, Dan says he thinks he downloaded the TC trending TSF recently. Yeah, I'm sure it's still out there. I think you can only download this TC trending indicator from the original author now. I think the original company that wrote this had it removed from Big Mike's and from NinjaTrader's site. So in order to find this, you'll have to do like a Google search, I think, to find it. You know, and once again, it's not really anything fancy. It is this indicator right here that comes with NinjaTrader. So the TSF does come with NinjaTrader. Someone just added, you know, some pretty, you know, a pretty color scheme to it, and you can color the bars and stuff like that too. So Ben is asking, you know, is there any way to kind of detect an uptrend or downtrend? So yeah, let me show you. I'll show you some simple ways to do this. Yeah, so let's see. You know, so obviously a simple way, right, is just to use a moving average. And let's see, I'm going to create a new logic board, and let me remove this TC trending indicator off of here. So let's kind of, alright, so let's say we want to take a look at the broader trend direction, right? So let's look at this 200 SMA to kind of detect, you know, the broader, higher time frame market direction. So what I'm going to use, I'm going to use the slope solver to do this. So I'm going to plug these two solvers together and just simply change my period to a 200 period. And So now as I look at that solver output, right, when the moving average is sloping down, right, we're getting a short output, and as soon as the moving average starts sloping up, then we get a long output. So we got like this one bar here that moved up a little bit, and even though we visually can't see it on the chart, the moving average did turn up just ever so slightly. All right, and then it kind of turned back down again as price kind of consolidated. Now these areas, these black areas where there is no output from that solver, that means that the moving average is flat. It's completely flat. And as we scroll forward, right, our moving average is, you know, sloping up ever so slightly. Guess I can stretch this out here. There we go. Now you can see it. So if you kind of stretch your chart out, exaggerate everything, you can kind of see what's going on here. So there you can see, you know, we had two bars where the slope was pointing up. One bar pointed up, and then it went flat, and then it's pointing down. So, you know, the slope solver is essentially the kind of easiest way to detect the trend, right, of a market. If you're using price action, so let's say if you're looking for higher highs or higher lows of price, you could use, you know, as you can see right here, Chameleon is kind of doing that. Right, I set Chameleon to this 10 bar look back, and so we can see as Chameleon steps up, you know, that's going to determining, you know, higher highs, and if, right, if Chameleon here, remember Chameleon is the red hashes here, so if the red hashes are stepping down, right, that's kind of indicative of the trend moving down. And to do some simple analysis like that, let's see. So I already built this comparison solver back at the beginning, and to get this comparison solver to match up with what we see on the chart, so remember that this Chameleon indicator, it has a look back set to 1, whereas what we're seeing on the chart, our look back is set to 10. Right, our look back is set to 10 here on the chart. So what I'm going to do is I'm on the solver tab. So I'm going to select this comparison solver here. I'm going to click copy, and let me kind of change the name here. So we got a look back of 10, and I'm going to go in here and change Chameleon's parameters here, right? So I need to change the look back to 10 here, and then go down to this Chameleon as well, right? And change the look back period to 10 as well. Alright, so I just modified this comparison solver, just modified the Chameleon indicator in it so it matches what we see on the chart. So now I'm going to switch back over to my logic tab, and in my existing nodes, right, there's that new solver that I just made. I'll drop that on here. Take a look at that, and so there we go. So we can see that the comparison solver is detecting when high makes a new high, when Chameleon's plot effectively steps up and makes a new high, or over here so over here we can see that Chameleon is, right, the plots are stepping down, making new lows. So that's kind of another way to look for trend. There are some previous workshop videos that get into a little more sophisticated price action movement. So we could, with the other indicator that we have, so we have a little more sophisticated SI swing high-low indicator here, and that can be used, I'm not going to put it on here, but that can be used to kind of detect the swing points. It's a little more sophisticated than using Chameleon. So you can look for swing points making higher highs. So for example, right, we can detect this swing point, and then we can detect this swing point and see when the swing points are making a higher high. So that's another way in BloodHound that you can, check for a trend. So if you would like to see that video, Van, I want you to send an email in, and I want you to ask for that video that's looking for higher, what would it be higher lows and lower highs in the swing points, and we'll send you a link to the previously recorded workshop video on that. Alright, and see, Alvin is asking, what are the proper steps to backtest your BloodHound strategy? Well, pretty simple, Alvin. If you want to backtest a strategy, let's see, how about we'll just use this one here as a very simple example. Let's see, I'll call this trend. Oops. Alright, let me rename this logic template there. Okay, call it trend, not trend. There we go, trend. And it's going to clean this up. Let me delete that logic template. Alright, so the way you backtest a system here. Alright, so we're just going to backtest this very simple system right here. Give me a moment while I just set myself up, and I need to. Alright, so if you're going to run a strategy, you do have to be connected to some kind of data feed. So I'm going to connect up to my data feed. Alright, so once we have a data feed connected, we can open up the, right, you can use this button up here to open up the strategies, or you can right click on your chart and go to strategies. Alright, there's our strategy window. So let's put Raven on here, and effectively what you want to do is you want to start at the top of the list of all these parameters and just work your way down. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to load up our BloodHound template. So I'm going to click File, and this is the template that we're working in today, or you can see today's date, right, 2014, June 20th. And it's at the top of the list because this list is organized by date, right? So it's sorted by date. And since this is the latest saved BloodHound file, it's at the top of the list. So I'm just going to open that up, and then the next thing I'm going to do is this is kind of a good practice to do. I'm going to take a look at the logic board, and just make sure that everything kind of looks correct. You know, it's quite easy to accidentally leave some of these leaders kind of in the wrong state. It's pretty easy to, you know, accidentally have that solver connected up, you know, versus this solver connected up. So I always like to just take a quick look at my leaders, you know, make sure that all the leaders are connected up the way that they should be before I run the system. You know, just kind of a quick double check, kind of a safety check. All right, so I'm going to set my entry logic to trend, which is that logic template we were just working in. Let's see, I'm not going to submit a limit order, so I'll just leave that off. We are going to back test, so I'm going to turn this to true. And how about if I just set a simple, let's see, we're working at oil, so probably 20 ticks is not too unreasonable. And we'll put a 10 tick stop. That might be a little too tight for oil, but just the example is, you know, just to, you know, how do you do some back testing. So, and of course you can decide if you want to turn on or turn off a trail. So I guess we'll turn a trailing on here. And then the final step is just to turn your strategy on. Alright, we'll click OK. And you can see all the buttons here are flashing on and off, and so as Raven is back testing all the historical trades, the buttons are being enabled and disabled and stuff. All right, let me kind of clean up the chart a little bit and make this a little easier to see. All right. There we have it. So we can see, right? We can see all the entry points, and you know, I have my chart set up so that right, the profitable trades are green and the losers are red. And then the next thing that you can do is, right, you can look at the strategy performance report, and you can look at your historical trades and go from there. So there's the data that you can use, right, to kind of do some further analysis. So, you know, we really don't make too many recommendations. You know, we're not trading coaches or anything. You know, but I guess kind of as a general rule, you know, if you find something that kind of has a profit factor around 1, then you probably have something that's worth working with, and you can, you know, then the next step is to further investigate the trades on the chart and to try and see what you can do to kind of filter out some more of the bad trades, or see what you can do to possibly capture a longer run on some of the profitable trades. You know, somehow find a way to kind of shift that balance of, you know, cutting out your losers versus, you know, and letting your winners run a little bit longer. So, and look at that. We just had Raven execute an order there. So, all right, there you go, Alvin. And well, I guess just to kind of expand upon that. So once you kind of gone back through your chart, you know, kind of looked at your trade data, and you know, come up with, you know, another rule that you can apply, or maybe you figured out that you should modify one of your trade conditions, one of your trade rules, or you know, maybe using a different indicator period might help, then basically you kind of go back to step one, which is you go back in and you modify your BloodHound system, and with the changes that you think will help, all right, just modify BloodHound and just rerun it again, back test it again, all right, and see what happens. So it is building a system, definitely is a shoot, I was going to try and draw a circular reference on the chart here. So BloodHound, or I should say, building an automated system is a circular pattern. Let's see. There we go. Well, I guess we don't have arc arrows, but building, back testing your trading rules and stuff, it is a process of testing, evaluating, making changes, making those changes based on your evaluation, testing again, evaluating again. So so it's a circular process, where you just keep reiterating through the steps, until you get to something that you like. So Celso is asking, how can you avoid the plot when the SMA is kind of flat? Okay. That's a good one there, Celso. Easy one. So let me go back to BloodHound, and all right, we have this indicator slope. So let me plug this back in, and I should name this solver here, right? This is SMA 200. Alright, so keep in mind we're looking at the red plot line here. So the red line is the SMA 200. So let me scroll back to where there was that choppy zone. Let's see. I'm going to turn Raven off here so I can get all this text off of my chart. So let's close that out. Alright, remove that. There we go. Okay, so we can see here that our SMA 200 is pretty flat. So let's filter that out. Also over here, how about, maybe this is a better spot right here. Yeah, here we go. So we can even see right in the black areas, the SMA is completely flat. So it's completely flat, so it filtered itself out. But say we wanted to filter out, these, more specifically, these areas here where there is an output. So we want no output from the slope solver. So the way we can do that is we have these max and min slope, and for the most part, all you're really, for the majority of you, all you're really going to need to use is just the maximum slope. Using this minimum slope is for building more sophisticated fuzzy logic type of systems. So you can really get into the nitty-gritty of controlling the solver's output values by using the minimum slope and the maximum slope. But most of you are just going to want to use the minimum slope. So let me put something like half a tick of slope in here, and let's see how that works out. And what I'm also going to want to do, so you you see the description here? Let me stretch this out. So you see this description, it says greater than 0 ticks, and it says max. So the 0 value, 0 ticks, sometimes doesn't update. It should be matching what I have in here where it says 0.5 ticks. So what I can do is just click off, click back on the solver, and look, you see how this description updated itself? So if we scroll down here, we can see our output in direction is set to look for greater than half a tick of slope. Okay, because it has a 1 value in there, or if we're at, or equal, if the slope equals half a tick of slope, we're going to get output as well. So if we look at our chart, it looks like half a tick is a little too much, right? We can see, look, we can see BloodHound has an output here, but look at the value. It's at 0.44. There's 0.47. So this half a tick of slope is a little too high. So let's knock that down, way down to 0.1. Take a look at that. And there we go. So we can see at 0.1, right, where the SMA is really flat here, there's no output from the solver. And definitely there's no output along there. And look at BloodHound's output here. So that output is telling me, right, that the slope of the 200 SMA is pretty darn flat. I could make this an even smaller value and go 0.05, and let's see what that looks like. So there we go. We're starting to get some results now. So you might want to lower this even a little bit more. How about 0.2, 0.02? Yeah, there we go. That's probably looking a little better. Right, so now we can see it's only isolating this smaller zone and a couple of other areas here where it's flattened out. So alright, Celso, I hope that helps there. So just basically just use the maximum slope setting, and so what this is doing is this is saying that we need a slope of 0.02 ticks minimum. That's what we want. So we want 0.02 ticks or greater slope. And on a chart, really all the slope is on a chart is the distance that that indicator moves. So if I scale this up, let me stretch this way out here. So if I were to measure, if I were to measure the value, actually here, to make this easier to see, I'm going to change my plot style from a line to a dot. I'll make the dot a little bit bigger. There we go. So changing the plot to a dot allows you to kind of pinpoint the exact value here. Alright, so let me scale, let me stretch my chart out even more. Right, so hopefully you guys can see the little red dots there. And so what what a slope is on a chart is it's just the distance between these two lines. That's all it is. So if the distance, right, if the y distance, in other words the distance in price, right, the up and down distance, if this distance between these two white lines, or in other words the distance between, right, my SMA values, if it's greater than 0.02 ticks, then my slope solver is going to paint the chart, right? That slope solver is going to detect that as having a slope to it. So that is, so that's what the slope solver is looking at. Let's see. Yeah, so back to the slope solver. So when we're looking at this maximum slope value of 0.02 ticks, that's mathematically, that's what's going on, is we're just looking at the distance, right, between the two plot values and making sure that distance is greater than 0.02 ticks, because that's what a slope is on a chart. Thanks for joining me, and you guys have a good rest of your weekend. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.